Mr. Toomey's going to recuse himself, but as far as for the meeting, we can start, so I will do, roll call. So, Dan?
He absolutely denied
Correct.
that and
Attorney
contacted the
Lamanna,
company.
we won't be able to take a vote.
Thank you.
Can you not hear him, Mary?
Oh, they stepped away from the microphone. Okay, so we have, the chairwoman, Mary, Jocelyn, Dan, and Mr. Toomey. So we'll start the meeting. We're here to discuss the enforcement order issued to the town of Lynnfield. And from the town of Lynnfield, we have yes, but as far as a quorum to open the meeting, we can, yep. Quorum only. And Mr. McDonald? Correct. Could you, so two of our members are remote, so if you could, come up to the microphone so that they'll be able to hear you?
Absolutely. Sounds like it's on. Yep. Okay, Patrick McDonald from the town of Lynnfield. I'm the GIS coordinator as well as conservation inspector, and I've just recently been appointed to handle the stormwater management of our infrastructure, and I've applied for some grants, et cetera. So, but I'm most familiar with this particular issue. And I could talk about anything. I want to give the Lynn Conservation Commission an opportunity to express their concerns, obviously. So I don't want to take over the floor, but by all means, you know, let me know what you need from me, and I'm happy to discuss. We also have Bob Curtin, the Assistant Town Administrator, via Zoom, and Emily Catamatori, the Director of Planning and Conservation, is in another town meeting right now, and she is going to get online as soon as she's available. That was a 6 o'clock meeting, so I'm not sure what her timing is going to be, but she's going to make every effort to get online.
She's online.
Ah, good. Right on time. So I can introduce her as Emily Catamatori, Director of Planning and Conservation.
So, Mary, do you want them to give an outline of why they're here tonight?
Okay, so I want to thank the Commission for hearing us today. I asked through George Markopoulos to have a special meeting, and I very much appreciate you inviting me here and giving me the opportunity to speak for us. So in a nutshell, we're here today because of ongoing flooding in Lynnfield around the Nels Pond area. So the Nels Pond, that entire watershed, contains mostly Lynnfield land, but also it does seep into the city of Lynn land. We have a particular case in Lynnfield where most of our residences and businesses are on septic systems, and so I understand that that's very different from municipal sewer systems. So I want to stress that this is any water, flooding, or groundwater tables that rise or start to inundate septic fields effectively render them useless and not functional. And so when the essential part of a septic system is to leach into the ground, when the water table rises, it makes those systems not function. And so we have some water that is extremely close to some residences, one in particular, and it's in their backyard. It's very close to the septic system. And so for the last 3 or 4 years, I've been, working to remove beaver dams in Lynnfield, because there were no beaver dams in Lynn that affected this water level. But we've gone through the proper procedures to get, permits from the Health Department and the Conservation Commission to trap beavers and remove beaver dams to prevent, catastrophic floods, which have happened in the past along Ledge Road. So we've had a property with structural property damage and personal property damage in the past from a breached dam. Anyways, so we're here because apparently there was from the town engineer years ago, and he's the one who hired me, and he's no longer with the town, had what I'll say a gentleman's agreement, and I don't mean to insult anybody or to assume that gives us a particular right, but there's a pipe in Lynn on private property, and I'm not sure whether there's a conservation easement. I thought there might be, but I don't know the details. That when it gets blocked, our DPW workers went in to clear the pipe. And so for many years, it was just easy enough for us to do. And it didn't burden the city of Lynn or Lynn Water and Sewer, because it's a difficult place to access. And so we had been doing that for a while. In the last couple of years, it's gotten progressively worse, so that silt and other debris that comes down through that basin. And I do have a map. Sorry I don't have anything that we can put online, but I have a map that I can hand out. So that 12-inch pipe that was, as I understand, was designed a long time ago and installed in an earthen dam that was reinforced with filter fabric and gravel and stone, became so clogged that we risked these the property damage along Ledge Road, the septic inundation along Lynbrook Road, and then the potential for other septic problems further down Ledge Road and possibly Canterbury in Lynnfield. So we had to go out, and the intent was not malicious. It was an intent to break through the top layer of that earthen berm and to release some of that water, at least a few inches, to be able to relieve the properties that were at risk. Unfortunately, because it was an earthen dam and the center of it was just earth and not stone, etc., it eroded faster than we had anticipated, and it created a rift in the earthen berm. So that has caused some issues downstream, and I don't want to make excuses, but my experience working with engineers and civil engineers is that that drainage structures are designed to handle flood events so as not to cause damage of anything downstream. And so knowing that there's a 30-inch culvert under Judge Road further down, I kind of assumed, and you can scold me for that, is that anything coming from a 12-inch pipe wasn't going to flood that. Or if there was any kind of flood, that 30-inch culvert could handle it, that would restrict the flow to levels that would be acceptable downstream of that culvert. As it turns out, circumstances, I've been told, is that there were some construction crews working, and so obviously we annoyed some people, and I want to offer an apology for that, and that in no way was any indication of what we tried to do. We weren't trying to. In fact, we went out to purposely release the water as slowly as we could, but just didn't work out that way. So we had this then enforcement order, which we respected by not going out there, but the problem hasn't changed for us, for our Lynnfield residents. And so I'm looking to pull together as many people involved and respectfully try to come up with a solution. Understanding that there are two distinct solutions that are going to be part of this. One is a short-term and one is a long-term. So a short-term solution for us is to be able to, so the earthen berm that had the 12-inch pipe in it, we merely cleared the pipe for 7 or 8 years periodically to keep the flows going. So there was no beaver dam. So when that water came through in October of last year, we didn't breach a beaver dam. I just want to make that clear, because I follow the procedures and we're not going to pull apart a beaver dam without proper approvals. But it gets difficult because this pipe is in the city of Lynn, and specifically on private property to which I don't know if there's an easement. So I'd like to come up with a solution, understanding that the historical flow through there was not all of the drainage from Nell's Pond, but it did contain some of it. And I would ask that the Conservation Commission, as well as the Board of Health here in Lynn, grant us the permissions, because we have a public health threat emergency in Lynnfield because of this high water level, to be able to go in and trap. As I understand, I believe we're still in open season of beaver, so we can trap, but I'm not going to send our beaver guy in on private property in a city that does not belong to us. So I want to be transparent and open about everything that we do, and inform you, the commission, the health department, Mr. Markopoulos, as to what we're planning on doing. So we had a meeting with your mayor, and obviously he indicated that he wants us to cooperate to find a solution, and I'm happy to go along those lines, and I'm willing to talk about anything. I guess what I'd like to do is be able to get a reprieve somehow from the enforcement order, or give us time to address it, but in the meantime allow us to have some kind of access so that we can help to alleviate the threats that are in Lynnfield. And the other side of it is that if a septic system in Lynnfield, the one in particular, if it gets breached, it's a septic contamination to natural clean waters, which eventually flow into the city of Lynn. And while it's not, I've been told, direct public water supply, there is the issue of the public coming in contact with a contaminated water source. So I want to make sure that that doesn't happen. So since that breach through that earthen berm that became bigger, there is now a beaver dam. And so I have been seeking clarification on the regulations in the state, and I understand that you're allowed to remove a beaver dam when it is touching a man-made structure. And so I'd like to consider this earthen berm as a man-made structure, because it is. It doesn't fit. It's not a natural earthen berm. If that's the case, so in no way am I ever implying that we're just going to go do something without your permission. I want to make sure that we get that permission or allowed to get this work done. So I'm offering our DPW to get this work done because we haven't this immediate threat. But because the property is in Lynn, I can't commit the town of Lynnfield to constantly monitor that. But I think there are some solutions that could be looked at that might alleviate the problem from occurring again. For instance, the top of the earthen berm, and I could show you on the maps, is at the same elevation as the outfall that goes towards Ledge Road. And so if you look at the historic, before that berm was built, the historic flow line, if that was blocked somehow, it never would have flooded to Ledge Road in Lynnfield, nor to properties on Lynbrook Road in Lynnfield. So I'd propose that we look at a solution that would lower that. But I'm not going to be the person that says, let's do this without a drainage study. So there's some solutions out there, and I know I'm talking a lot, but we really do need immediate access to get this solved so that we don't have the risk for our residents. And then long-term, I have applied for a FEMA BRIC, Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities, Direct Technical Assistance Grant. It's not financial, but it's technical assistance, and I propose to bring in Mass DEP, because we have the other issue of some other drainage in Linfield that really needs to be sorted out. And I agree with that. That, for us, is the second theme that I was talking about, but that's going to be a longer-term solution. But I've also talked with Andrew Cole at National Grid, and he is cognizant of the fact that the floods are now affecting transmission line poles, and they're doing some work there right now, and they have a lot of dewatering to do. So it's a problem. So Andrew Cole has expressed an interest in possibly financially helping out to install beaver deceivers or something so that we don't have future beaver activity that's going to jeopardize some of the assets in Linfield. So I talk a lot, but I hope that covers most of the bases.
Yes. She said when you say that you went to the Conservation Commission, you're referring to the Conservation Commission for Linfield.
For Linfield, correct. So any beaver, we've never removed a beaver dam or trapped in the city of Lynn or any other town or city. It's only been through the proper channels in Linfield. And so the beaver dam that I'm talking about that is above Ledge Road and just below Sylvan Terrace or Sylvan Circle is only there because of the flood elevation. If it was restored, if that pipe was working all the time, that 12-inch pipe, there would never be a beaver dam at this location. So because the water's high, the beavers have now blocked it off. And that's the beaver dam that we can do because it's in Linfield. But I'm asking for some solution that will get the beaver dam that's currently down at the earthen berm just above the 12-inch pipe to be cleared. And it's not going to be all at once. We'll do it systematically and release water slowly. So for septic, our procedure is to get the declaration from our Board of Health. The health director signs an emergency because it's flooding affecting septic. We go and do the trapping, and then we go through the Conservation Commission. This is in Linfield. Go through the Conservation Commission to get a breaching of a beaver dam. So we'd do the same thing, but I'd like to include the city of Lynn in this so that we do it the right way.
Mr. Curtin is raising his hand. Mr. Curtin, do you want to speak? You're muted.
Thank you for having us tonight. To put it more simply, there is a flooding issue here that affects both your community and our community. We are happy to work in cooperation with you to alleviate this in any manner. If there is something on the Lynn side that we're going to, obviously, we are going to ask for your cooperation, but whatever solution you can suggest, I think it's not ideal for our work as other we've done is to go into Lynn and do work on your property. And we are certainly happy to bow to you on how you want to handle this. We're just looking for ways that we can help everyone who might be affected by these circumstances. Right now, we have one person on Lindbergh Road in Linfield whose septic system is in danger of inundation because he's getting massive flooding on his property, getting closer and closer to his home. And we also know that when we try to do things, because these are complicated issues, when we try to Lynn properties as well. So we're just here to present the problem that we're facing in our community and to listen to you and work with you in any way possible to alleviate that and to protect everyone involved, no matter whether they live in Lynn or Linfield, from having to suffer from any adverse.
I just have a
Oh, sure.
couple of questions.
Okay.
Just about the events kind of leading up to like the actual excavation.
In October?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
I was hoping you can kind of clarify like who this sort of informal relationship with, or who in the city, like what organization that sort of informal relationship was with, like between the,
Oh,
the former town engineer and did you say it was Lynn Water and Sewer, or was it? like, DPW?
I think, but I was never told that that there was some kind of arrangement. I was just told that we've been handling it because, respectfully, Lynn doesn't want to walk through the woods to take care of this because it wasn't necessarily affecting Lynn at the time. It's now affected Linfield considerably, and it happens more and more often. So I don't know the answer to that, unfortunately. That's what the engineer at the time presented to me. He said, well, no, we just go in there, we just have an agreement, and I never asked, I just started there, I never asked for anything in writing. I just, did what I was told. So unfortunately, that information is kind of lost. I'm sorry, Bob?
The previous town engineer I worked with, Charlie Rickey, he did have an arrangement with someone from Lynn Water, so they understood that Linfield workers, we had asked Lynn Water and Sewer to address this in the past, and there was an informal agreement that if you need to go out there and unclog that plug, unclog that pipe, you can go ahead and do so. Ideally, we get tonight because obviously that's not a solution. We want something more formal. We want to make sure that anything happening on your property is with your absolute approval. And if you prefer to handle it yourself, we're certainly amenable to that. We're just here to work cooperatively in any way going forward.
Carol Bartlett, 56 Ledge Road in Linfield. I just want to add a few things. I've lived on Ledge Road for more than 65 years, so I've seen any and all changes that have happened in the waterways there. It used to be a very small, intermittent brook that went in the woods to Nell's Hole, through the swamp to my house and around my yard, and it's piped across Canterbury Road. And it always dried up for between 3.5 and 4 months of the year. It dried up to nothing. And the swamp above it would dry up to almost nothing too. And now, since this pipe has been clogged over and over and over, and we have the addition of the beaver dams also, this brook now is running 12 months of the year. And it has created the huge flooding problem that we're talking about. I can just pass around a couple pictures for you. You've seen that.
Yeah,
so I've witnessed it. Yeah, it's a huge problem, and it never occurred before the developments were allowed in and around Nell's Hole area in Lynn, and the lack of maintenance of that pipe. And I'm not trying to come down on anybody, but somebody's got to take care of that pipe. It's the whole key to this problem, that and the beaver dams, unfortunately. So we have to find a solution to this. You can look at these pictures of the flooding and see how catastrophic it was. And I'm very fearful it will happen again if we can't do something about it. So any help that everyone can give is very much appreciated. But we didn't used to have this problem. This is all since the building in Lynn, problems with the pipe, and now the beaver dams. They've made it all much worse. So, any questions, feel free to ask. Thank you.
No, I thought she was with the town of Linfield. That's why I said,
Oh,
Counted as the fourth member to establish a quorum. If there was a quorum without you, you could certainly speak as a private citizen. But this evening, since you're being counted towards the quorum, we open the meeting. However, if you intend to speak, you'll be speaking as a member. If there were a fifth member here, that would have established a quorum, and then you could speak.
I would hope the commission would continue this meeting, so I would be given the opportunity to speak. I came here, sat in the audience as a private citizen, and I had indicated earlier that if necessary, but nobody ever explained to me that I would not be allowed to
I
speak.
understand that, Mike, and I respect your interests here. However, you were counted for the purpose of allowing the meeting to proceed and to allow the town of Linfield to speak and make a presentation. I expect from what I hear that there will be several other meetings, and if there are more than 4 members present, and you're the 5th or 6th, you certainly have the right to speak. But if you're allowed to speak at this point as the 4th member establishing the quorum, effectively, legally, you are speaking outside the rail as a member of the Conservation Commission, and that can't be allowed. Right. And Michael, I think I said this, and I think you heard it earlier. Because there's 4, there's a quorum, there's a meeting. But because you are the 4th, there aren't 4 other members to vote. There can be no motions or votes taken this evening. I thought I made that clear at the outset.
Can I ask a question at least of you?
If you could come here and ask me, yes.
This commission issued an enforcement. That enforcement order is not going to be removed. So,
Mary, do you have any other questions for, or not just Mary, any other members have any other questions for the town of Linfield? Attorney Makopoulos?
Through the chair. Patrick, I just want to understand what you said earlier in your testimony. It's on private property in Lynn. So is it city of Lynn land, or is it Lynn water and sewer land that you're referring to, or is it a private citizen's land?
it appears to be a private citizen's land, which is an extension from Judge Road down, over that large retaining wall and out across the waterway.
Do you have an address for that property?
29 Judge Road, I think it was.
It's 33?
Yeah.
233?
Yeah, I apologize, I didn't look that up myself, but it's,
And again, through the chair, with the chair's permission, if I may continue to inquire.
Can you, folks online hear Attorney Makopoulos? Okay.
Patrick, you're suggesting some type of cooperation. What are you envisioning in terms of cooperation? Are you envisioning some type of a committee to address these issues and then come back to Lynn Concom? What were you envisioning in terms of, when you said cooperation, what does that mean in your mind?
so we have 2 issues. One is the immediate concern of reducing the risk to Linfield residents, because we have a risk of a septic system failure, complete failure. which is then on the resident's responsibility to replace it. And then we have this risk to floods. And so over on Ledge Road, let me just clarify that currently the water is held back by an existing beaver dam.
No, I
And-
understand that.
Oh, I'm sorry, so the
But what were you talked about cooperation. What does that mean? What are you envisioning? To my knowledge, you've not submitted any materials to Concom to consider this evening. You've made a verbal presentation. Were any documents submitted to you?
Only what was submitted to
Any
you.
applications, any notice of intents, any
No.
type of documents? What?
So-
We want to, please don't
Yep.
misunderstand what I'm
Yep.
trying to say. You were in the meeting with me and the mayor. The mayor does want a solution to this. But how are you envisioning that we work forward together? What is that in your mind?
So I was coming here to get feedback from you as to how you wanted to handle that, because I'm willing to do any kind of
You have a
form.
suggestion.
I have a suggestion of a meeting, and if that's a committee, that's fine, or if it's, I would like to have a meeting with yourself, conservation director, and maybe the health director, to see if we can lower the flood stage right now. But I understand that there's an enforcement order. So I guess my question is, where does that leave us? Does that leave us at a standstill that we can't do anything until something else is resolved?
I'm sorry. I would say to you that the enforcement order stands and is still in effect. At the same time, I think we have to have a parallel track to try to address the temporary issue and the permanent issue.
Yep.
And through the chair, I don't know, because I don't have many dealings with your committee, does Lynn Concom have an expert that can work with us to work through these issues? I don't know. Do you have such a person?
Mr.
A technical
McAllister is
person?
on our, he's on our call today.
I mean, again, through the chair, does it make sense to have an initial meeting with the town of Lynnfield, water and sewer, the law department, the technical person, and just see where that brings us, and then come back to you and tell you what the result of that initial meeting has been? Because it sounds as though this temporary fix that Patrick is talking about should be addressed fairly quickly.
Yeah,
Not
that's,
today, but not 6 months from now either.
I was hoping it was today, but I understand the procedure,
I don't see
so,
how that can happen, honestly, Patrick.
Okay.
I don't see all
Okay.
due respect to you, and I understand there's a resident from Lynnfield here.
Yep.
You know, and I understand that, but,
so, I would propose that we have a meeting with whoever you deem appropriate to come up with a temporary way to lower the water elevation without adversely impacting this enforcement order. I want to respect that, and I don't want to circumvent anything. But we have an immediate risk that I'd like the commission to at least consider as quite important for us to solve.
again,
And then, I'm sorry,
no, please.
and then to sit down with Lynn Conservation, Lynn Water and Sewer, anybody else in DPW, whoever, engineers, whoever might be involved, and meet with us in Lynnfield, or we can meet at common ground, to discuss steps to take 2 tracks. One would be to look at the design of that berm, because I know in the enforcement order, we were told to replace it to the former conditions. And I find that to be difficult to do. And because of the enforcement, I'm in a kind of a quandary as to whether we can restore it, because we've been told not to go on site. So there's that logistics. Like, how does that?
Well, I think that the order requested that you present to conservation a plan to restore it, not just go out and restore it. I
Right,
think
okay,
that's
no-
what the order said.
I misspoke, and that's the way I see it. I'll present this as an opportunity, but to restore it to the way it was continues to present a problem for the town of Lynnfield and its residents. So I would like to start a discussion on how that can be maybe redesigned. And I'm not an engineer, so I'm not going to tell you what it has to be. But with the cooperation of Andrew Cole at National Grid and their ability and financial ability to help in this situation, I'd like to bring them to the table to say, is there something that we can do respecting the City of Lynn and Lynn Water and Sewer's desires to have that 12-inch pipe put back in? Is there something that we can do that will keep the water level from ever getting so high that it risks Lynnfield residential properties, which I think is fair. If there's a drainage study that shows that the potential of flooding downstream is too great, then we'd have to backtrack and figure out what another solution is. But the other side of it is we have a standing issue with another property on Lookout Terrace, in which a private pipe was constructed decades ago, which was not approved by the Lynn Conservation Commission. They were denied their NOI. DEP was called in by the private owner and was able to get that overturned. And there was a pipe that was installed.
So they got a superseding order of conditions for that through the DEP?
So I don't know the official wording. So I haven't seen the files. So I apologize for that. And I can provide more information for you. So
What number Lookout Terrace is it? Do you know?
10 and 12. Specifically 10.
Okay.
So, and I expressed to Mr. Markopoulos that we have had difficulties getting to that site, and I'll just say physical threats. So I want to resolve that, and I've expressed that as a desire for the town of Lynnfield. But it's a long-term solution because I don't know any order of conditions that existed for that from Mass DEP. I do not know if there were installation and construction standards, and I don't know if there was a maintenance and operation perpetual conditions that went along with that. So as far as I know, it could be a pipe that has failed. And we don't have an easement, nor do we have access to that site. And so my plan is to bring in Mass DEP to be able to start to resolve that. So this is my olive branch saying the long-term solution is to get that pipe running, which is Cedar Brook, which feeds into the city of Lynn. I don't believe it's water supply, but tell me if I'm wrong. I'd like to get that restored. And if that means that the town of Lynnfield then takes an easement through there, and we're responsible for it, the town of Lynnfield needs to make sure that it meets certain standards, because we can't accept a pipe that's failing. So that's why I applied for this FEMA direct technical assistance. So I guess what I'm saying is I want to try to come up with an immediate solution that temporarily lowers that water level with the town of Lynnfield's expressed interest in trying to solve these other problems.
Through the chair, again, I'll make this offer. The law department is here, the director of the health department is here, Lynn Water and Sewer is here. We'd be willing to meet with the town of Lynnfield with the Concom expert, technical expert, sort of flesh this out and come back to you in a more organized fashion as to these two potential, solutions for the temporary and permanent. And then once we're given sort of an indication that the Concom is in fact amenable to any particular solution, the burden's back on the town of Lynnfield to come in, file all proper paperwork, address everything that's in the order that was issued, and we'll move forward. We're willing to do that.
Mary, do you have anything else?
No, Linfield has not installed any beaver deceivers. Is that what you mean? We've built nothing in the city of Lynn or, Lynn proper. So I want to make that clear, nor have we brought in equipment. We haven't brought in heavy equipment for anything. What we did over there on that earthen... I'm sorry, I missed that.
She wanted to know, have you used beaver deceivers on Nell's Pond, or has it all been breaching?
We have not used beaver deceivers, and there was never a beaver dam below Nell's Pond to breach. There was never a beaver dam. So no to that question. We did not breach a beaver dam. There currently is one, and it's up against the earthen berm. But that had never been there before, so.
So our next regularly scheduled meeting is March 19th at 6:30 here. I don't know if that's enough time to get a scope of work to our experts and/or come together with the law department.
What is your
and-
deadline for posting or giving documents to you before you advertise? Do you have a deadline that I have to meet?
So I would only need to advertise if you're going to file a notice of intent or a request for determination of applicability. Other than that, I need to post the agenda 48 hours before.
Okay. Is it,
Okay. Oh, sorry.
Here's the dilemma I have. Usually when you have a notice of intent to file, it's on your property. This isn't our property. We would like to get out of the business of coming into land and doing any work on land that we don't own. So, one of the reasons we didn't come to you with a request to work on property that's not ours is because we would like ideally for the city of Lynn to cooperate with us, and that way you're in control of what's being done to land in the city of Lynn. We're here to discuss, if you tell us that you would prefer us to submit a notice of intent to do work in land that we don't have an easement, we don't own, I'm just questioning, is that the way we're supposed to proceed?
I wasn't suggesting that. I was just asking, he was asking me what the advertising requirements would be.
yeah, so I would agree with Bob, because I don't think it's appropriate for us to file an RDA or a notice of intent because it's not property in Linfield, and we don't have any legal authority to file one of those. So I would instead suggest that I can put together a proposal that would outline these steps and objectives.
Yes, and you
And-
would be on
and
our
present
agenda.
that,
You'd
yes.
be on our agenda, but I wouldn't advertise it in the newspaper. So I would only need the 48 hours to.
Yeah, I don't want to inundate you with a bunch of data, 10 minutes before the hearing, right? I just wanted to know what your deadline
Yeah,
was
so it's
so that your
probably
commission
reasonable.
members can read it.
Yes, probably reasonable to give it to me the week before.
Okay, so
So
the
we're looking at-
12th,
We're looking at the 12th. Probably, the latest you could give it to me is the 14th.
of March.
Yes,
Ooh, okay, so,
for a meeting on the 19th.
so 9 days. Okay. I can put together something because there is an urgency and I'm willing to do that. So I won't speak for Lynn or suggest anything. I'm going to suggest ideas from me and from our town to help resolve this.
Right,
If-
and our Attorney Markopoulos has offered to meet, to assist and work out a resolution, I believe still stands. Oh, your offer to meet before they put together material for the meeting on the 19th?
Yeah.
We can be available within a few days.
Okay.
Mary, is that okay?
Are there any particular issues that you'd like me to address? Or just take a look at the enforcement order and come up with some ideas? I have lots of ideas. I've got a lot of this stuff written down, so preparing something is not going to be difficult. So I'll come to the commission then with a proposal.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else?
The next meeting is the 19th.
Correct.
So the 14th at the latest, preferably the 12th for the data. Is PowerPoint available to me for a presentation?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Even if you should choose to attend by remote, I can make you the presenter, and you could just share your screen, so it's not required that you come here.
Okay. And what time is the meeting? 6:30 on the 19th? Same look. Okay. Yeah, I might do that.
Okay.
Unless you need me to be here. I'm happy to do it remote, but
Yeah,
I figured I wanted to give you a face to understand, we're trying to work this out. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk. My intent was not to confuse the issue by not having a presentation per se, but I appreciate your comments, and I'll put something together so that it's official, so we can get that taken care of.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so having no other business on our agenda, would someone like to make a motion? Thank you. Motion to adjourn. Could I have a second?
Seconded.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
And thank you, Mr. McAllister. We'll be in touch with a scope.